Welcome back to Hank Reviews It All. Tenet is a time-bending spy thriller, the latest from Christopher Nolan, the director of the Batman trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, Memento, and many other crowd favorites. It stars John David Washington, Elizabeth Debicki, Robert Pattinson, and Kenneth Branagh, with a return from Nolan regular Michael Caine, and was released on October 26, 2020. In it, Washington stars as the protagonist, a CIA operative recruited to a shadowy organization known only as Tenet and given the mission to save the world. The single greatest question I want to answer is this movie worth your time? I was fortunate enough to see Tenet twice. First in London on a 70mm IMAX screen, which was the director's preferred vision, and the next day on a regular digital IMAX screen. There is a bit of a difference. The 70mm is obviously still using film. If you're looking for a bit of escapism, then Tenet does not fail. The plot bounces around the globe and puts you as the viewer in the middle of sights and sounds that you have never seen happen on film before. And that's perhaps one of Tenet's greatest strengths. With this style of movie, though, Nolan forgoes his usual slow burn of pacing and instead pushes the pedal to the metal and doesn't let up until the final credits roll. And that is one thing that is a big departure from his usual movies. If you're not paying attention, this movie will leave you behind. Also, many people have reported audio mixing issues, which has led to the dialogue in some scenes being hard to hear. During my screening in London, I actually did have this issue, but the next day on the digital IMAX, it wasn't a problem. From a technical aspect, saying that each component of this movie is amazing barely scratches the surface. The score by Ludwig Göransson fits perfectly and is as welcome as any by Hans Zimmer. Hoyt van Hoytema's cinematography places you in the middle of the scenes and forces you to be a part of the action. Each of these guys has just crafted their portion of the film to grab you by the collar and make sure that you stick along for the ride. As I mentioned, this movie has a blazing fast pace, which doesn't leave as much room for character development as I would have liked. I can understand why, though. This movie would have been most likely over 3 hours long if it had gone the way I wanted it to. Considering this, the emotional impact of the film instead rests with Debicki as Kat. You see similar stylings in the monologue and the dialogue as with other Nolan films, and this is where he wants to draw in the viewer. This is the person you are supposed to be most relating with because it's the most relatable concept. No one knows what it's like to be a CIA operative. Most people don't. Most people don't know what it's like to save the world. That's the popcorn aspect. That's the blockbuster aspect. You can't really relate to that type of environment unless you've been in it. So instead, Nolan uses Debicki as Kat to find somewhere to give the viewer emotional leverage to find their way into the film. That's why the protagonist doesn't have a name. You're not supposed to relate with him because that's not a situation that is relatable. But people can relate to having a child. People can relate to wanting to do anything to protect them. Nolan is a master of his craft, and this movie feels like the culmination of all of the techniques, be it storytelling, be it artistically, that he has been developing since his very first film. Whether it's the non-linear storytelling from Memento, the practical action effects and visual effects work from the Batman films, or the highly technical science fiction concepts that we saw in Inception or Interstellar. Christopher Nolan, Hoyt van Hoytema, Ludwig Göransson have crafted a spectacle here that has to be seen to be believed. There are things in this movie that will not ever be topped in movie making.
Well, how big a plane?
You can quote me on that. I cannot recommend this film enough. It is a technical marvel. It is a spy thriller, an action film, a blockbuster, a science fiction film, and a puzzle all wrapped up into one. Thanks for watching my review on Tenet. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video where we'll talk about whether the film Possessor by Brandon Cronenberg is worth your time.